Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel where today we are going to be looking at the Waldorf Blofeld. Now this unit came out in, I believe it was 2007, and it has been claimed that this synth right here ended up saving the Waldorf company from complete failure. I purchased this about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, brand new. At the time, these were going for around $740, $700, somewhere in there. On Reverb right now, you can find these anywhere from like $500 to still somewhere around that $740 mark. Now this is a three oscillator synth. So it's one oscillator per voice, and I believe it has a maximum of 25 voices. It is also multi-timbral. Everything is digitally controlled on this one, so it is a hybrid synth, so to say, and kind of like one of the first ones to really come out that I felt really left a mark on like the whole wavetable, digital, analog synth fusion, so to say. Now in 2007, everyone was saying, "Oh, you analog better than digital," but were they right? Were they right 10 years ago? We're gonna find out. Let's take a better look at this one. Okay, so here it is. This is the Waldorf Blofeld. This is the black edition. So it's got a stereo out, it's got a headphone jack, and MIDI in. There is a USB port as well, and then a 9-volt DC. And I'm going to fire this up. Makes a little wavy thing. I think one of the best things with this synth is when you go to update it, there's like this German guy and this German saying on there. And it just kind of like adds to the whole German experience of this synth, because this synth is 100% German. So once it fires up and it does its whole loading thing and everything, you get to your main screen here. Hopefully this is easy enough to see. I don't think there's a way to turn down the contrast on this. So anyways, you've got basically, how many knobs is that? That's 8 knobs. So you've got kind of like a master control knob. You've got this, which selects basically your banks. So there is bank A through H on this. You can sort them by their categories, a bunch of different categories like your pads and your ARPs and everything. This one is like kind of your main volume. And then you get into these 4 knobs here. So it's kind of like lined out in kind of like a matrix kind of setting. So you go from top here. You can control oscillator 1, oscillator 2, oscillator 3. You can control, there's 2 filters on this. So filter 1, filter 2, and then you get into filter envelope, amp envelope. Why can I not say that right now? Amp envelope, LFO, many LFOs on this. And then you get into your modulation section. And then finally, you get into an amplifier where there's also effects. So you can have 2 different effects going on at once. And then there's also an arpeggiator on this as well. Arpeggiator / sequencer. So right off the bat, let's go from patch number 1. This one is called With Love. Now, I think this patch, every time I turn this on and go to this patch, kind of just describes this synthesizer. This thing is digital, it screams digital, but it sounds warm and lovely at the same time, which is why I highly suggest, if you're getting into synthesis and want something that is now actually quite cheap and still massive in what it can do, I would go for Blofeld. Very, very versatile synth. So I'm just going to scroll through a few patches just so you get a general idea of what this synth is all about. It is a sound design dream, if you ask me. When this thing first came out, it was unheard of to kind of have, I would say, like this much like versatility in a synth. So that's an art pattern of some kind. So like I say, you get the nice warm analog tones, but you get that digital high end on this synth. Like that's where hybrid synths, I think, I really don't understand why they didn't make their mark in like the 90s and the 2000s there. Like they just sound so good. So anyways, let's use this patch, for example, whilst I'm going through and explaining what everything does. So from oscillator 1, this is where you can basically select the wave type, basically the semitones, the detune, and the level of this. And then when you're using the bigger knob here, so that's these 4 knobs, what I just explained. And then when the big knob on the side, you can kind of scroll through 6 different pages here. So there's a lot of menu diving in this if you want to design your own patches. So right off the bat, you can turn the oscillator off. It's got a pulse, sawtooth, triangle, sine, and then you get into your wavetables. And I believe there is 64 different wavetable waves on this. Just to verify, no, there's, yeah, 65. And then you can also load in your own samples in this as well through one of their programs. And I believe, if I remember, everything gets transferred via SiSex down the MIDI line, or is it USB? Can't remember. Anyways, so basically you can select your wave. You can select which octave you're playing on, and you can send this to either filter 1 or filter 2. So you kind of get like a filter balance. Let's just set it for middle for now. You can set the pulse width amount, the pulse width modulation amount, the pulse width modulation source, and then you get into limit the wavetable and a brilliance. And I believe the brilliance kind of adds a little bit of harmonic distortion to it. You can frequency modulate this between all the different oscillators or LFOs or basically anything. This synth is just meant to patch through lots of menu diving. Key tracks, so you can track it with your keys, and then your pitch bend range, you can go minus or plus. And then you get into your second oscillator. So now the first 2 oscillators on this give you the whole wavetable selections. Oscillator 2 is the same, except on, what is it, number, there's a little bit of a difference on this one. You can sync it to oscillator 3. That is the only difference between oscillator 2 and oscillator 1. And then when you get into oscillator 3, you are basically stuck to, it's kind of a little frozen there. There we go. Oscillator 3, okay. Yeah, you're stuck to your pulse, sawtooth, triangle, and your sines. Now, when you get into your filters, so you can select between filter 1 and 2. Filter does sound very nice on this. And like, as you can kind of hear on that patch in the background, having the ability of 2 filters gives you the option to kind of sweep around there. Now in each filter, you get a modulation source, a mod amount, you get an FM source, the FM amount, you get a drive. So you can also have like a digital drive on this. You've got a clipping, a tube, a hard, a medium, soft, and a pickup, 2 pickups, rectifier, square. You got a bunch of different basically drive options. You can pan it to the left and the right per oscillator. So you could have like oscillator 2 doing, or oscillator 1 panned like hard left, oscillator 2 panned hard right. And then you can do your pan source, so you can have an LFO controlling the pan like left and right and everything. And then we get into the filter envelope. So it's your pretty standard filter envelope, ADSR. Set your attack, decay, sustains. Nothing really too fancy there. And then you get into your amp envelope. Same thing, attack, ADSR. You can set it to either poly or mono. Yep. And then you get into your envelopes. So envelope 3, standard ADSR, where you can send it to wherever you want to send it. Envelope 4. Is there an envelope 5? No. So 2 envelopes on top of your filter amp. And yep. And then you get into LFOs, where you can set the sine wave triangle, speed. You can sync it. You can clock it. You can have the start phase, so you can have it starting. This is really nice. I wish more. I wish analog synths had it where it starts on the LFO. You know, I think that would be quite handy these days. You can have a delay as well, so you can have it start quite delayed. What was this LFO sent to? I cannot remember. Anyway, so LFO 1, LFO 2 is the same, LFO 3, and then you get into your modulation. So this is where you get 16 different modulation sources. So you can send like the pressure of the keys to filter 1 cutoff. Tons of different options. Kind of a ridiculous amount of options, if you ask me. Yeah, 16 of those. And then you get modifiers as well on top of this, which are basically all your LFOs. It's basically so much menu diving on this. I primarily use this synth where I will load up a patch, something that I feel fits in a track, do some minor tweaks on there, save the patch, and just move on, because or else you're stuck here for hours just noodling around on this thing. Then finally, you get to an amplifier section, so you can set the volume, the mod source, mod amount, and this is where you get into the effects. So this has got a bypass, a chorus, a flanger, a phaser, an overdrive, a triple FX, which I believe is an overdrive, a chorus, and I believe there is a little bit of reverb in there. I can't remember exactly. So that's the effects. And then on effect 2, the only difference with this one is you get a delay and a click delay. Now the click delay is kind of weird. Let's set it to something a little shorter. It's obviously not the best patch to be showing the click delay, but it kind of like adds this weird like little click in there. It kind of sounds weird sometimes. It sounds like it's clipping. It's a little weird, so to say. But yes, this synth is absolutely massive. I love it. It just sits so well in so many mixes, and like I said, there are so many patches. Like there's the banks A through H, and 127 patches per bank. So it's just got absolutely everything in just like a very small form factor box. The only downfall of this synth, I feel, is it's really hard to play live. Like, you don't get the whole knob, so this is something you have to set up and forget about it, or kind of patch it to your modulation wheel on your keys to be able to really noodle around with it. Over the years, there's been lots of complaints about these encoders kind of becoming like faulty, so to say, where you twist them and it won't really do anything. And then if you twist it really hard, all of a sudden it'll start moving very slowly. Every now and then I do run into that problem with these encoders. They are not the greatest encoders. I think that's the only downfall of this synth at the moment is the build quality. Even though it's a metal chassis, the build quality was not quite there. I think that's the only downfall of this synth. Otherwise, like the sound, like this is a bass patch. Like the bass is there. I use this quite a lot for basses, to be honest, just because it's nice to be able to have modulated basses, and this is really well at kind of creating those patches that are very modulated on the low end. Yes. I don't know if I can say this patch name on on YouTube, but that is that patch. The leads are usually pretty cheesy on this, not gonna lie. Bass is very good, pads very good. They have atmosphere, they're called, very good. Sound effects very good. They've got drum patches on this, somewhat good. If you want like digital analog hybrid drum sounding things, you could get that off of this. And like I said earlier, you can also load in your own sample. It's kind of like I'm trying to think of that word, culminated all the best of the synth world at the time and revitalized Waldorf back into like a household name, because now they have the Iridium, which is basically a beefed up version of this Blofeld, and the price of those right now is ridiculous. Like I think they're over $3,000, where you could get one of these and have a little baby Iridium, you know? Now another thing, it has a multi-mode, so you can load 16 different patches and assign 16 different MIDI ins to control all those 16 patches. So this is like, you could produce a whole song on this one thing. So it's got that ability. It would obviously take a lot of menu diving to be able to do that, but it's there if you want to use it for that, or if you're playing live with this, just have all your patches kind of preloaded, preset, and then all you'd have to do is just hit a different MIDI send into that, MIDI channel into that. And yeah, this is a really hard synth to color because there is so much going on this. I think as we go along with this channel in the future, I'll cover more what I use this for in an actual song, so to say. So when I go over like tracks I've created, which is my plan, I'll explain like the patch that I designed on the Blofeld. So yeah, I think this synth is absolutely wonderful. You just get you could get lost in this for days and days. Obviously lots of cheese, but the pads are just so good. So just like calm down, Vangelis, you know? Yes, I would give this synth, the only downfall of it is just kind of like the encoders over the years and the menu diving. The sound is there. The sound design aspect is there. Based on dollar value, like $500 gets you everything. Like even modern synths, they're going for $500, don't give you everything and have that digital high end to it with the analog warmth. So I have to honestly give this one probably a 16 out of 20. Highly suggest the Blofeld. So there you have it, the absolute monster house that is the Waldorf Blofeld. Absolute unit of a synth. Heavy, very heavy actually. The metal casing for this is good. Build quality obviously could be better, But the sounds you get out of this are everywhere from cheese to experimental and just a sound design haven of a synth, especially for $500. You can't go wrong. Go buy one of these used, play around with it. If you don't like it, it's held its value pretty well over the years, and I think it's going to be one of those synths that will increase in value as time goes on. And once you guys catch on that this is a little baby Iridium Waldorf, I think they're just going to fly off the market and the prices are going to soar. That's my prediction for the future. Hopefully you like this video. Hopefully it was informative. If you're looking to buy a Waldorf Blofeld, I say do it. Take the jump, just experiment with it. If it's not for you, with all the menu diving and everything, move on to something else, because you will not lose your money on trading and selling this. So until the next video, which I believe we're going to be covering the Electron Octatrack. Very exciting one, another very menu diving kind of synth. As you can start to learn, I love to menu dive and I love sound design. So that's why I have a lot of menu divey kind of synths. So yes, hopefully this video was informative for you. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you have a Waldorf Blofeld or what you think its biggest competitor is in this modern day. Because there's a lot of synths out there, but do they do as much as the Blofeld? I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. Let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, as we're getting very, 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 very close to that 100 subscriber mark. And it would help immensely to me if we could break that 100 mark and keep on moving up that number list, you know. So yes, until the next video, bye-bye.